Hi guys, it's Wednesday and time to look at our raw challenge from last week. This is number 3. So this is the crossing image that I wanted you to have a look at. Let me show you in Lightroom here. So that is the original raw file that I gave you and said, process this naturally. So off the bat, if I look at, let me just give you all of the images here. Those are all the images received. I did receive 2 or 3 with no attachment, guys. Sorry, couldn't pull that out there. But the interesting thing is here is I think color and variations we'll have a quick chat through, but the interesting discussion in this particular image is going to be the crop, because there's something called visual energy in a frame where either the crop is going to support a visual energy that goes up and down, or if you're shooting more landscape, kind of 16:9, it's going to support more of a side-to-side type of feeling. So let's have a quick squiz just through all of the images received here. Name again, top corner is the name. Anand, black and white, nice and tight on the action. Now, interesting, Barry and a lot of you guys went for more of a square crop, not the conventional original ratio, and I'll chat a bit more on that later on. Charlene, interesting one. The only thing immediately I pick up is this little guy in the corner here, either in or out, kind of helps to sustain the story. Interesting idea, Francisco here with more space on the left, kind of wanting them to go into that side. Again, Gabriel, more of a square crop there. Gary, also in the square crop. Just notice the color variations here. This is the interesting discussion always. Now, interesting one on this, Josh. I think you and 2 other people did this diagonal thing, which is interesting because of the content. We'll talk about that. Kathy, interesting crop. I like the idea. You got nice detail in here. Very strong crop. I wouldn't normally go that far, but for the exercise it does work. Naomi also went with a bit of a skew angle here. Looks like they're falling into the water. I quite like that. Again, Pete, yours also diagonal. I'd be interested to see why you guys did it, but again, I'm not against it. I think for the chaos that is a crossing, it kind of does work. Rika went for more of a conventional kind of ratio in a portrait orientation. See, there's another square crop here. Jennifer, nice one. Again, we'll talk about this on the crop, but I mean, this little guy down here, is he in or out? You have to be very intentional, as I've mentioned in a couple of talks recently as well. Intentional about what you're showing me. Charles, again, nice and dark, get a bit more space on the left there. Another square crop. I find it very interesting because apart from Instagram, which is kind of changing the way we see photography, not a common crop is the square one, but a lot of you guys went for it. Tim, nice crop here as well. Okay, so those are the images we received, and again, that's the original file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into develop. I'm going to have a quick run through just on the processing thereof, which is actually very quick for an image like this, and then we'll discuss cropping a little bit. So into develop we go. Now, if I take this image, just set up my workspace here, I take that away. Right, so crop I'm going to do, normally I do crop first because I want to have my canvas sorted and then I can process from there. In this case, just because of the exercise, I'm going to do everything else first. So I will, again, I'll set my black point. I'm going to set my white point. If you guys aren't aware of any of these techniques, either drop me a mail and then we can discuss, or check on the YouTube on my channel. There's quite a bit there. Clarity up because it gives me that hard edge. Let me give you a before and after. Right, so just black, white, and a bit of clarity for me gets me to a point, if I do before and after like this, which gives me nice and punch. Now, I'm very much a believer in having a vision where you're processing 2, and also the content of the frame needs to kind of create the mood for you, and you are not going to try and put a mood on top of it, but you're going to try and take the mood and enhance it. Now, the mood in a crossing is chaotic, it's busy, it's hard, it's harsh. So that's why I push clarity up higher than I would normally. I might pull a little bit of the shadows back just to get the black faces not as dark, and then just a bit of saturation. So for me, that's natural looking. If I remember what this was like, that's kind of what it looked like. Now, the crop from here. So I hit R to go into crop. Now, the first decision here is if you crop landscape, you're telling the viewer the story is happening side to side. If you crop portrait, you're telling the viewer the story is happening up and down. It's the narrative that you're using, yeah? Now, if I'm going to try and do a crop over here, and I stick to my original ratio to start with, some of you did something like this. Now, watch, just work with me here. You see these 2 guys in the corner here. They're either in or they're out. Now, because they've been chopped in half and there's a bit of subject separation issues here, I would take them out of the story, right? Next decision, these 2 guys at the bottom, are they in or out? You have to be intentional here. So I would probably go with an out, something like there, but now I'm getting close to this guy. So if I do that, does that work? That's pretty cool, actually, just thinking about it. That's not a bad crop. So if you look at that, I've intentionally removed the areas that I don't want, and that's detracting from the image. So we can move this up and down a bit, but I do like the idea of having them close to the frame at the bottom here without having these two chopped in half. Got this guy's whole face, and the story runs in kind of a C curve through, if you follow that kind of line. So this for me is an interesting crop. What I'll do, let me create a couple of virtual copies of this thing. So I'm going to go Command apostrophe. Where are you? And let's make another one. Command apostrophe is your shortcut for virtual copies. So if I go onto this one now, if I'm going to try and do this because initially when I look at this image, I see more of a top to bottom type of flow of energy. So now I would look for something over here. Again, does this guy at the bottom bother me personally? Yeah, it does a bit. So I could maybe look at something like this, but now he's back in. You see, tight one. Does that work? Not really. It feels to me like it's bottom left heavy and the story is running out of my frame here. It's that diagonal that's created that kind of works. So let's see the best we can do on this. If I put this little guy in and chop that guy here in half. You see, I can't fit everything into an original ratio. And I think that's why most of you guys went for a 1-to-1 crop. So let me do the same image, which was this one. And I'm going to take this version. I've created 3 versions here now. I'm going to do a 1-to-1 on this because it seems to be the one that works best. So I would, in this case, so I'll go top to bottom like that. That to me just feels right. The balance in this frame feels right. I've lost these two at the bottom and these ones in the corner because they detract from my story in some way. With scenes like this, people think when there's lots of stuff to photograph, it's easier. It's not. It's more difficult. So I like this crop the best of my 3. So check this out. If I put my 3 together for you on a screen like that, and let me just give my lights back there. So the first one was my landscape crop. Second one was my portrait crop. You see the different stories you're telling here. I think the strongest one is the square crop. So if I put my lights back on at all of your images, the square crop, and I like what I'm seeing, that you guys actually, you process, and I'm hoping this is the case, you processed for feeling and for storytelling rather than just feeling, I have to do this or I have to do that. Nice one. So let's go through these again. Nice. I mean, black and white on this. Who was this? Anant, I think. Go harder. Be more intentional. Make your blacks blacker, your whites whiter. Make this thing pop. Barry, nice overall. Wouldn't change a hell of a lot. Maybe just push the shadows up a little bit. Charlene, nice. Try the crop for me without this little guy, though. Color and everything looks cool. Francisco, nice. I actually like the bit of space on the side. Maybe just back up. I don't know if it's a saturation of the shadows, just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. Gabrielle, very nice. If you could keep the tonal values of this and make it black and white, I think it might work. Otherwise, it does feel a little bit too dark for me, considering this is a midday shot. Gary, nice. This is one I would actually tone the darks down a bit. Remember, guys, there are screen differences here, how screens are calibrated. Josh, diagonal, interesting. I like that. From a toning point of view, maybe a little bit darker. Comes back to screen. Kathy, I like this. The only problem is because it's such a huge crop, it starts looking soft. It's always the case because you start getting the pixelation at that level. Interesting crop. See how different this looks. Looks like a completely different story. Love it. Pete, very intentional with your diagonal. I like that. This guy kind of leading the crop almost. But yeah, it does work. Rika, nice. Very, very nice. Coral, try and take your shot, Coral, and add some clarity to it. Gives it a little bit more of a hard edge because it's a hard, aggressive scene, if you will. Jen, nice. Just play with your with the crop on this bottom little guy. I like this, Charles. Maybe tighten up the crop a little bit. Kind of be more intentional. I'm not sure if you want to show me this on the left or if it's just a mistake. And also lighten it a little bit. I like that. Jim, the color looks a bit washed out here to me. I'm not sure if it's the contrast or the saturation. Have a look at those. I like the crop. Tim, what do I want to say? I mean, you've got these two horns coming in from the bottom. You've got this horn creeping in here. That's the intention we're talking about. That's why some people's images just look better as they pay attention to the small things. So tighten up the crop a little bit, otherwise nice. And I think that's it. Cool. Guys, thanks for playing along. It's always fun. I'm heading back, today is Wednesday, I'm heading back to the Mara on Friday evening for another 3 weeks in the Mara. So check me out on Periscope and Instagram. I'm sharing a lot of stuff from there. I'm gonna try and take some images out there, and signal dependent, I'll load some of these from there. Otherwise, when I'm back in September, we're gonna do a whole lot more of this. It's great, great, great fun. I am, however, online, posting to social media, and I'll chat to you guys over there. Follow along. It's a hell of a fun thing to be able to share from the field like we do. Anyway, that was a nice one. We'll do this again. My name is Gerry. I'm from Walt. I will see you guys next time.